Good morning, fellow post-scriptumers. Today we are talking about the biggest issue with post-scriptum in my opinion, which is how it cheats for the allies. Specifically we're talking in this case about the armour, because this is the biggest cheat that it has. So we got the display mode here for the various vehicles, and if we go to the American tanks and we go to X-ray view and then we choose a tank, let's choose the M8. Now the X-ray view. Okay, so you can see the inside of the tank. These green boxes are the ammo racks, and you can see how little space they take up, how small a percentage they are of the overall volume of the inside of the tank. So if you're a German tanker and you're trying to knock out an Allied Easy 8, you've got a bunch of stuff you can knock out. The transmission, which will stop it from rolling very well. You can knock out the engine, you can set the fuel tanks on fire, you can damage the turret ring, the cannon. But as we all know, Allied tanks did not protect their crews very well because the armour wasn't particularly good. This huge empty space inside, apart from all the components that aren't modelled, is occupied by the crew, which we could kind of loosely call one of the organs of the tank. The components are organs and the crew are organs. Now if we take a look at a German tank, and we'll choose a Panther and we'll X-ray view it. Now you see ammo rack, ammo rack, ammo rack, ammo rack. All of these green boxes contain shells with highly flammable stroke explosive propellant charges. And then the empty space inside, also missing crew. Okay, so what was the real life advantage of German armour? Superior cannons which could knock out most Allied tanks at very long ranges, and they had good armour, far superior armour to anything the Allies had, not only because the quality of the steel was better, but also the way that it was angled in a lot of cases. I mean, Allied tanks have angles, but overall the superiority of German armour is a known thing. So going head to head, Panther against an Easy 8, the Panther, if it got the first shot in, would 9 times out of 10 or more knock out that Easy 8 with the first hit, because if it failed to hit any critical components, the penetration of the fighting compartment would knock the crew out. If it didn't knock the crew out, the amount of spalling and damage it did inside the fighting compartment would invariably lead to the crew bailing out. I suppose you get a tiny handful of crew that would stick inside to try and find the tank that was shooting at them and return fire, but any sane individual inside a tank that's just had its fighting compartment penetrated by a German tank cannon or anti-tank gun would get out of dodge. Unfortunately, what have they modelled and what have they not modelled in post-scriptum that cheats for the Allies? There is no spalling. I've played the game enough to know that you can knock out the crew members if you directly hit them with the AP round. And more often than not, you won't kill the crewman, even though he's taken a 75 or 85mm AP round, with or without high explosive filler, through his arm. Press X and you get to bandage yourself inside the tank. But other than a direct hit on the crew member with the AP round, you can put rounds through the fighting compartment that don't hit critical components all day long, and it has no effect on the crew. So what you end up doing with your German tank versus an Allied tank, any of them, some have got better ammo rack compartments, but essentially if you're putting rounds through the fighting compartment, you're getting no result. And when the Allied tanks don't have these huge green boxes that are so on offer, that gives them a massive advantage. You are taking away any kind of superiority that the German tanks had in reality. I mean, the Panther's Glacis is very, very effective in the game, but a side shot, ammo rack. The Germans in their tanks have double jeopardy. if the round goes through the ammo rack, there's a chance that the ammo rack will cause catastrophic damage. If it doesn't go through the ammo rack and cause catastrophic damage, then the crew would be vulnerable. The crew's not there though. They don't suffer spalling damage. The same goes for the Allied tanks. But the double jeopardy as such doesn't exist for either tank. But the single jeopardy, which is the ammo racks, very much does exist for the Panther, not so much for the Shermans and other Allied tanks, because their ammo racks are so small and they're so low down in the hull and protected. It's very hard to ammo rack an Allied tank, whereas to ammo rack a German tank, not so difficult, as you can see. This is how Postscriptum cheats. In my opinion, this is not accidental, this is deliberate. This is how the developers nerf the German tanks and buff the Allied tanks for the American market. They know that there's an awful lot of money from the American market, and they want the American market to have all of the advantages, fair or unfair, that the Allied tanks can have. And this is how they've done it. They've modelled the armour systems pretty good, they've armoured the weapon systems pretty good, but by not having spalling damage to crews, they have massively biased the realism outcome towards the Allied armour players. And as far as I'm concerned, for a game that claims to be ultra realistic, it's just not on. It's not acceptable. People are going about game balance. Well, if you want to balance it, make sure the Germans have less of the big cats than the Allies have Shermans, as was real. That can be done. You can do that on a server. You can balance it. You can make it so that the most accessible German tanks are the Panzer IVs, because they predominated in real life. Make it real in that regard. Restrict the number of big cats, as was real. What you shouldn't be doing is removing a major organ of the tanks, which is the crew. If you were to do this for the infantry, so the American players have predominantly got the semi-automatic Garand, and the German players have predominantly got the bolt-action Kar 98. Where's the nerf in there? You don't get the German infantry with some kind of special protection around their heart, so they can't be killed as easily, as is the case with the tanks. You got the one-shot kill from a Garand, you got a one-shot kill from a Kar 98, but the Americans have got semi-automatic. Where's the balance there? If you want to talk about balance, why is the balance only on the tanks? Why is it only the tanks have been nerfed for the Germans and effectively buffed for the Allies? Why aren't you applying that balance to the infantry play? It's all one-way traffic, isn't it? I mean, I don't think that's an opinion, I think that's a statement of fact. So there you go. That's how the developers of Postscriptum cheat in order to gain more sales in the American market. Anyway, for what it's worth, if it was just entertaining, then jolly good. If it was educational, jolly good. If it leads to some more people demanding fairer play from the devs, then that's the best outcome this video can have. Anyway, hope to see you in the next one. Bye!